crime story.
Tara Calico, 19, went for a bike ride and disappeared without a trace. Tara Lee Calico entered this world on February 28, 1969, in the state of New Mexico. Born to David and Patty Calico, Tara was the third of 6 siblings. Early in her childhood, her parents went their separate ways. Her mother, Patty, found love again with John Dole, and they embarked on a journey together, taking Tara with them to Valencia County, specifically to the quaint town of Belen, which was home to around 7,000 residents, where their new family found their place. From a young age, Tara displayed an organized and fiercely independent spirit. She was known for her outgoing nature and boundless energy, proving herself a highly athletic and adventurous child. These qualities would accompany her into adulthood. Tara was what some might call a go-getter, incredibly active and always eager for impromptu hikes or long bicycle rides, even without prior planning. Her high school years saw her excelling academically and forging friendships with ease. Following her graduation, Tara enrolled at the University of New Mexico, opting to study psychology. During her freshman year, she maintained a stellar 3.9 grade point average. Her inquisitive and outgoing personality led her to a profound fascination with psychology, as she had an insatiable curiosity about delving into the human psyche and expanding her knowledge. During her time at university, Tara dated a former classmate, Jack Cole. Their romance was nothing short of enchanting, filled with thrilling adventures and delightful tales. Jack was a perfect match for Tara's active lifestyle, and they complemented each other seamlessly. Even with the demands of her studies, Tara was a master at finding equilibrium between academics, social life, sports, and part-time work, leaving everyone around her in awe of her remarkable ability to be present in every aspect of her life. Disappearance. It was Tuesday, September 20th, 1988, and Tara, a 19-year-old sophomore at the University of New Mexico, had only just begun her second year of studies. On this particular morning, she embarked on her usual early bike ride. Typically, Tara shared this 58-kilometer cycling excursion with her mother, Patty Dole. They followed their familiar route along Highway 47, tracing their path to the railroad tracks and back. However, on this fateful morning, Tara set out alone. Patty did not join her. Tara commenced her ride as she always did, at 9:30 a.m., pedaling along the road. Due to a recent flat tire on her own bike, Tara was using her mother's neon pink Huffy mountain bike. Her plan was to return home before noon, as she had tennis practice scheduled with her boyfriend, Jack, and a 3:30 p.m. class to attend. For company on her journey, Tara brought along her Walkman, a cassette tape featuring the American rock band Boston, and a set of headphones. Those who recall the era can appreciate the sometimes laborious process of rewinding cassettes, or the effort required to skip through songs on an album to reach your preferred tracks. The frustration of a cassette tape tangling or tearing in your player was an all too familiar occurrence. Patty anxiously waited for Tara's return. But when noon arrived without any sign of her daughter, concern took hold. Deciding to follow the route her daughter had planned, Patty traced the straight path they typically pedaled, growing increasingly worried as she reached the railroad tracks without encountering Tara or any trace of her presence. Patty took immediate action, dialing local hospitals in a frantic attempt to determine if Tara had met with an accident and required medical attention. However, her heart sank as she learned that Tara had not been admitted to any of the hospitals she contacted. Realizing the urgency of the situation, Patty enlisted the support of close family friends in a desperate bid to locate her missing daughter. Despite the collective efforts, Tara remained elusive, prompting Patty to make a distressing call to the police. Law enforcement swiftly initiated a search operation, yet the first day yielded no sign of Tara. The search was reluctantly halted overnight with plans to resume at daybreak. Tragically, a heavy rainstorm descended during the evening, potentially erasing vital evidence. As the dawn of the following day broke, the search efforts were recommenced. In the daylight, police officers came upon a peculiar sight: bicycle tire tracks that abruptly veered off the road, approximately 3 kilometers from Tara's residence. Eyewitnesses reported glimpses of Tara cycling northward along the highway, Heading back home at around 11:30 a.m., their accounts placed her just a short distance, merely 3 to 4 kilometers from her house. Intriguingly, another observer recalled a 1953 Ford pickup truck, its color resembling a dingy white or light gray, with a homemade white body closely trailing behind her along the roadside. Of particular note was the fact that Tara had been wearing headphones, seemingly oblivious to the truck tailing her. A third witness, who had passed by Tara, vividly remembered the young woman on her bicycle and the white truck nearby, containing several occupants. Simultaneously, vigilant officers focused their attention on the area near the bicycle tracks and noticed peculiar depressions in the soft ground, hinting at a possible struggle. Following these tracks, they discovered Tara's cassette tape, along with several fractured plastic components likely originating from her music player. In addition, they came across several empty beer cans, raising further questions about the ominous events surrounding Tara's disappearance. The remaining components of Tara's music player would later surface at the John F. Kennedy campground, situated 19 miles to the east of Highway 47. This campground rested at the base of the remote and desolate Manzano Mountains. The emergence of these additional items made it increasingly evident that Tara's disappearance was no mere accident. It appeared that she had intentionally left these fragments as a form of breadcrumbs, a deliberate sign for potential searchers. Suspicion continued to mount, reinforcing the unsettling belief that Tara had fallen victim to an abduction. Following the revelation of the cassette tape and music player remnants, the police redoubled their efforts. However, Patty expressed her dissatisfaction with the inconsistent performance of local law enforcement. According to Patty, one particular officer ventured into unsettling territory, weaving bizarre theories, including suggestions of a satanic cult involvement or ritual sacrifice. Such speculations were not only inappropriate but also deeply distressing for the already anxious mother. In an interview with a reporter, this detective even proposed the theory that Tara might have run away. In response to these actions, the detective was swiftly dismissed from duty, with the Belen Police Department denouncing his behavior as inappropriate and unprofessional. Meanwhile, other officers diligently pursued various leads, examining potential evidence discovered on the side of the highway, which included a discarded water bottle and a peculiar area of disturbed earth. They also looked into a group of 3 men observed drinking beer in the back of a pickup truck, although subsequent investigation revealed they had no connection to the incident. The vanishing of Tara left the entire community in a state of shock and bewilderment. The perplexing questions abounded. How could a young woman vanish in broad daylight, especially when multiple witnesses had seen her? Why had this distinctive vehicle with several occupants managed to elude identification and capture? Fueled by the accounts of those who had seen the mysterious pickup truck, the detectives crafted 2 composite sketches of the men within. The driver was described as a white male aged between 30 and 45, sporting red hair, a tall stature, and pronounced wrinkles near his temples. The other passenger was characterized as a young white male. Despite exhaustive search efforts, encompassing both ground investigations and helicopter sweeps, by September 27th, the case remained shrouded in ambiguity. Detectives persisted in their inquiries, but in the absence of new leads, the investigation eventually reached a standstill, growing cold with the passage of time. Polaroid. A year later, on June 15, 1989, some 2,700 miles away in Port St. Joe, Florida, a woman stumbled upon a Polaroid photograph resting in an unoccupied parking spot outside a convenience store. The photograph presented a distressing scene. An unknown young boy and girl, bound and silenced with black tape across their mouths, lay in the back of a van. Prior to the discovery of the photograph, witnesses recalled the presence of a white Toyota van at that very spot. The concerned woman promptly reached out to local law enforcement, who, in turn, transmitted the photograph to the FBI for further examination. The FBI opted to disseminate the photograph via local media, and it wasn't long before Patty's relatives made contact, convinced that the young woman depicted bore an uncanny resemblance to Tara. Patty hurriedly traveled to Florida to view the photograph in person and was struck by the strong resemblance the woman shared with her missing daughter. What solidified Patty's conviction was the sight of a scar on the woman's leg. Tara had acquired this scar from a childhood car accident, leaving her with a distinctive mark on her calf. Adding to the intrigue, the photograph featured a copy of Tara's beloved book, My Sweet Audrina by V.C. Andrews. Numerous experts meticulously scrutinized the photograph, but none could definitively confirm the woman's identity as Tara. Under magnification, a partially visible phone number emerged on the book's spine, though it yielded no fruitful leads. By August 1989, the FBI announced their inability to conclusively identify the woman in the photograph as Tara. Even the Los Alamos National Laboratory failed to reach a definitive conclusion. However, Scotland Yard, after their analysis of the photograph, remained inclined to believe that Tara was indeed present in the image. Subsequently, 2 more photographs were discovered and discreetly examined, their contents never disclosed to the public. The first photograph turned up at a construction site in Montecito, California. According to Patty, it featured a blurry image of a woman with her mouth taped shut, bearing a hairline strikingly reminiscent of Tara's. The woman exhibited a peculiar swirl on her right temple and a noticeable lazy eye condition in one of her pupils, mirroring Tara's own characteristics. Behind the woman, there lay a light blue striped fabric reminiscent of the material found in the van. Patty could only speculate that it might be Tara. Photo analysis placed its date in the vicinity of August to September 1989. The second photo depicted a woman aboard an Amtrak train, accompanied by a man seated beside her. Her hands were wrapped in bandages, and she wore black-rimmed glasses that concealed her eyes. This photograph was dated around February 1990. Patty was unsure if the woman was Tara, though the man's visage bore a resemblance to a composite sketch. Even after the passage of decades, neither the woman nor the boy in the first photograph had been identified. Following these disheartening developments, Patty's trust in the FBI and law enforcement waned significantly. She openly expressed her frustration and skepticism toward the various detectives tasked with investigating Tara's perplexing disappearance. Tragically, Patty passed away in 2006, never obtaining closure regarding her cherished daughter's fate. Corruption. When a Freedom of Information request was submitted to the Valencia Sheriff's Department, where Tara Calico's case files were housed, it yielded a favorable response. Eager individuals, committed to unraveling the mystery, eagerly accessed the documents, only to find the records in a state of disarray. The documents were marred by inaccuracies, numerous errors, and typos, mirroring the issues present in my previous articles. Proper cataloging was amiss, and some files appeared to be missing crucial documents. Astonishingly, audio recordings of pivotal conversations with witnesses, vital to the case, had mysteriously vanished. On September 20, 2008, a local Valencia County newspaper published an article asserting that County Sheriff Rene Rivera possessed knowledge regarding Tara's fate, including the identities of those responsible for her disappearance. The article alleged that Rivera had received information suggesting that 2 teenagers had inadvertently struck Tara with a pickup truck, and their parents had played a role in covering up the incident. Despite this theory, Rivera was unable to press charges, lacking concrete evidence. He maintained that until Tara's body was discovered, he could not effect an arrest. In October 2013, a task force comprising 6 members was assembled to reevaluate the case. Unfortunately, this renewed effort yielded no fresh evidence. Even in 2019, the FBI made a public announcement offering a reward of $20,000 for any information that might lead to the location of Tara or her remains. One witness recalled a red-haired man in an aged white pickup truck, who, though older, bore a striking resemblance to local resident Lawrence Romero Jr. Notably, Lawrence Romero Sr. was the sheriff responsible for overseeing the investigation into Tara Calico's vanishing. The witness recounted that when he initially commented on the striking resemblance between Romero Jr. and the individual he had seen in the vehicle following Tara, his observations were met with initial disregard. He alleged that during his police testimony, he was presented with an overwhelming array of numerous photos, seemingly in an attempt to confuse him. In a rather unsettling twist, there appeared to be an effort to persuade him to select a different individual from the one he had spotted in the truck. Nonetheless, he remained resolute in his insistence on creating a composite sketch, although, regrettably, it did not significantly aid in the search for Tara. Local sources whispered about the infamous corruption within the sheriff's department, fostering the belief that Tara's fate might be just one among many crimes concealed. An anonymous informant asserted that they had been acquainted with Romero Jr., along with his companions Scott Cunningham and Charlie Hooten, who were all known to partake in alcohol and had a propensity for getting into trouble. On each occasion, Romero Sr. had seemingly shielded them from police repercussions. The passing of Lawrence Romero Sr. in 2011 and his son a few years earlier added another layer of complexity to the story. In 2013, Henry Brown, a local resident who was terminally ill, approached the new sheriff's office with a troubling revelation, expressing a desire to unburden his conscience. He detailed an incident from 1986 when he had been approached by Lawrence Romero Jr., who had requested him to dig a makeshift basement adjacent to his residence, which they intended to use as a gathering place. According to Brown, on one occasion, while seeking company in that basement, he inadvertently stumbled upon the lifeless body of a young woman wrapped in a blue tarp. Romero, accompanied by two friends, had discussed concealing this chilling discovery. When they noticed Brown's intrusion, they threatened him with death should he ever divulge what he had witnessed. He proceeded to reveal that Romero and his associates had tragically struck Tara with their pickup truck, leaving her lifeless body by the roadside initially. However, as the public investigation gained momentum, they returned under the cover of night to retrieve her. A statement was taken by a sheriff's deputy named Frank Matola, but curiously, this statement was conspicuously absent from the case records. Another individual, Donald Dutch, recounted a hauntingly similar account, yet, once again, there existed no official record of his statement, nor any documented investigation into Lawrence Romero. Speculation arose that the FBI had attempted to dig into Romero's background but had yielded no significant results. It's important to underscore that these accounts are not endorsed as official versions, and authorities have labeled them as not credible rumors. However, they do raise questions about peculiarities in the methodologies employed by local law enforcement, including the alleged harassment described by Patty at the hands of at least one detective, as well as the irregular condition of the files and the conspicuous absence of certain documents. In 2019, the FBI issued a poignant statement, emphasizing the urgency of the situation. Tara had her whole life ahead of her when she disappeared. Law enforcement never stopped searching for this young lady, following numerous leads and conducting countless interviews for over 30 years. But it's time for someone to step forward and help us finally bring Tara home. Michelle Dole, Tara's sister, continues to champion media attention for the case of her sister's disappearance, granting interviews and forwarding any newfound leads to the police. It is our collective hope that her efforts bear fruit in uncovering the truth. I hope you liked this story. Please don't forget to leave a comment sharing with your thoughts below. Give a thumbs up this video. And remember to hit that subscribe button to stay tuned for more captivating stories. Thank you for joining us on this remarkable journey, and we'll see you in the next video.